The bidder that's buying, it's going to win, is the one that will take the least amount of the property. That's kind of the opposite of what most people are thinking, but that's the way it is.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to cover some frequently asked questions about Louisiana tax lien certificate buying. And of course, it's Ted Thomas who's going to be answering these questions. Ted is America's tax lien and tax deed authority. Ted, we're going to jump right into this first question. These all come from your viewers. This is Jared. He was on Twitter. Jared asks, what month does the Louisiana tax lien certificate auctions take place, and how often are the auctions?
Louisiana does an annual auction, and they usually do it in the middle part of the year. May, June is when they do the auctions. They don't do them all year long, though. They do them during 1 month, basically June. They do the auction, and then when it's finished, it's finished.
All right, well, that's pretty simple enough. Next question comes from Muhammad. He was on YouTube. Muhammad asks, what is the highest return you can make on Louisiana tax liens?
Well, tax liens in Louisiana start out by paying 5%. And then for each month that the certificate is outstanding, you could earn 1% more. So let's say you bought a certificate today and it stayed outstanding for the whole year. And so let's say we're in May now, and it went all the way to next May. That'd be 12 months. So that would be 17% is the annualized rate that you would earn in the state of Louisiana.
Wow, that's pretty generous. That's a good rate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good rate. That's real good. Yeah.
Question 3. This comes from Shelly. She's on Instagram. Shelly asked, I'm confused about the bidding method. I think I read you bid down the ownership. What does that mean? What does it mean to bid down the ownership, Ted?
Okay, well, when you're talking about the ownership now, we're actually talking about a deed auction, not a tax lien auction. Okay, so let's do a little review here so you keep from getting confused. Every state in the United States has counties, all right? So there's 3,000 plus counties. All of the counties in the United States are planned and have laws that require that the county can foreclose and take a property. So how do they do that? They make a lien on the property, then they levy on the property, and then they confiscate the property. So now we're talking about a property that's being confiscated on. All right, so in Louisiana, when they confiscate the property, when you buy at an auction, the winning bidder, and listen carefully because this really confuses people, all right, the winning bidder is the bidder that will take the least amount of the property away from the property owner that's losing the property. So let me explain this. This is really tough for people to get. All right, so the whole property is this piece of property. This is the whole property. Whichever bidder will take the least amount of that property will be the winner. All right, so that means if the property owner said, I want 99% of the property, they're only going to leave 1%. Well, that's not going to work, but let's do it the other way. If the buyer said, I'll let the owner keep 99% and I'll only take 1%, the small percent right here, okay, then that's the winner. The winner is the one that will take the least amount of property from the owner. If you didn't get that, don't worry about it. It took me the first 3 years, 35 years ago before I understood it. They use the same process in the state of Iowa, by the way. Whoever take the least amount of the property is the winner. Now, we started out this particular session talking about tax lien certificates. That was not a tax lien certificate explanation. It was an explanation of someone that was buying at the deed sale. That means that tax lien certificate never got paid or redeemed. So now it's at a tax deed sale, and the owner is losing their property, and when they're losing the property, the bidder that's buying, it's going to win, is the one that will take the least amount of the property. That's kind of the opposite of what most people are thinking, but that's the way it is.
Okay, big distinction between tax deeds and tax liens. So thanks for pointing that out, Jack.
A big distinction, again, you're right, and also a big distinction against most tax auctions. Most tax defaulted auction, you're getting the whole property. In this case, you're leaving, whoever leaves the most for that property owner is the one that's going to win.
Wow.
Kind of opposite. Now, if that isn't confusing, take my word for it. I've been doing this for over 30 years. It's confusing to everybody. So make sure you understand that. Now, how are you going to make sure you understand it? You can rely on other videos that we do here on YouTube where we have time to draw it for you on a board so you can understand it. But this is where you want to sit down and say to yourself, who am I getting my instruction from? You want to get your instruction from people like Ted Thomas, and you want to seek out professionals like attorneys that can sit there and explain that Louisiana law, because it's very unusual. So if you get a property in Louisiana, you might not get the whole property. You're only going to get partial property. So that means the property owner is still going to keep part of the property. You're going to be a tenant in common. We're not in the business of explaining joint ownership and tenants in common and all that here. We're just talking about tax defaults, and this is a complicated process.
Well, we'll get back to our tax lien questions here right now. This was
much easier with tax liens.
We'll stay in tax lien in Louisiana territory here with our questions. This is question 4. This comes from Maria. She was on Twitter. After I win a tax lien certificate at auction, how long does the owner have to pay me back?
Okay, how long before you're going to get paid back if you own a tax lien certificate? Well, hopefully you're going to get paid back within the 3-year total limitation. All right, so they have 3 years. So you bought a certificate today, all right, and that's going to start the certificate moving. In other words, 5% you're going to make right away, then 1% for each month. Those people have up to 3 years to pay you. So it could be sometime before you get paid.
And is that what a redemption period is, Ted?
Exactly. It's a redemption period. So when they're selling a tax lien certificate, it's a redeemable tax lien certificate. In other words, the county is going to sell a piece of paper, and the owner of the property can come back anytime after it's been sold and pay whatever the amount of tax it was. In other words, the 5% I mentioned, 1% for each month. So at the end of the year, the owner could pay the taxes and pay the 17%, and now they would get their tax lien certificate back, and they'd live happily ever after.
Okay. Next question. This is from we're with Simon now on YouTube. Simon asked, what is a parish? He says, I keep seeing the word when looking up Louisiana tax lien certificate sales. What is a parish?
Okay, well, we have many parts of government. So I think everybody recognizes in Washington, D.C., is we have a republic. It's a federal government, and they own all the land in the United States. And what the federal government did is they allowed states, and that the next thing the states allowed was they allowed to have counties, okay? So you got federal, state, counties. All right, so these are sub-governments. Federal, state, and counties are sub. All right, so Louisiana has a history of ownership. It was the Louisiana Purchase. The French owned all of that from New Orleans all the way up to Minneapolis and out into the middle part of the Midwest. That was Louisiana Purchase. And so the French owned it, so they used Napoleonic law in that state. It's a little bit different than English law, which we use in all the other states. Use English law, they use Napoleonic law, and when they do, they call those counties parishes. All right, all you have to remember is all of the states have to comply with the same rules when it comes to tax default of property. So a parish is nothing more than a county. Simple. Long explanation. You probably didn't need that much, but now you...
Well, you all thought you were coming for information on tax liens in Louisiana. You got a little bit of a history lesson from Ted. So,
there you go.
I want to remind everybody, if you have a question for Ted, leave it in the comments below. His team will see it, and you'll be on a future video. But the next question here, this comes from Ali. This is on TikTok, Ted. Does Louisiana have online auctions?
Anytime we have online or offline auctions, this thing is changing fast. Now, in the 35 years that I've been involved in this, each year there's changes in the law, and the counties themselves can change the law within the county. So what you need to do is you need to look at all of the counties first of all, then decide which county you're going to buy in. I always tell you to buy close in where you are because you don't have to travel when you first start, and it's very easy to do. But if you're going to you want to use the whole country, you can. It's your playground. You can use it. All right. So find out what that state and what that county, because I could give you the information today. I don't know when you're going to watch this YouTube video. 5 years from now, it could be a completely different set of rules. So go to the state. The state has statutes. Statute just means that those are the laws for the state. Whatever the state law says, they then push it down to the county, or in the Louisiana case, they push it down to the parish. The parish then has to enforce that rule at the Board of Supervisors or county commissioner level. All right, those laws change every single year. So you can't depend on what I tell you today to not have changed by next year. Even if you buy in this county today, then it's going to be the same next year. They change it.
Well, we'll get back to our tax lien questions then, Ted.
Sounds good.
We have Joe from LinkedIn, Ted. He wonders, are there any additional costs or fees associated with purchasing tax lien certificates in Louisiana?
You know, I like people that ask that question. Are there any extra fees? You know, if you get involved with the government, anything, you know, there's always an extra fee. You go there, you buy a property, you say, I'm all done. And then you next find out, they found out, well, there's a little transfer fee. Oh, there's an administration fee. And oh, there's a fee for that. Yes, there's fees. They're all minor fees, but they're going to add up to hundreds of dollars. So don't go and just pay the exact number or only have that amount with you. Have some extra checks with you so you can write check. There's always going to be extra fees. Always.
Well, Ted, thanks a lot for sharing. And, you know, for any of those folks watching, Ted, who are you know, want to get involved in a tax lien auction there in Louisiana, you have a way they can help find when they are and what counties, don't you?
Okay, so I've been doing this for 35 years, and what I found out over all these years is students become totally confused as to where to go next, what to know. They might learn about tax lien certificate or tax deed, but they don't know where to go next, and they don't even know the counties within their own state. Now, there's over 3,000 counties across the United States. So how are you going to know that? Now, the 35 years, I don't know all the counties. I can tell you a lot of them because just from experience of my students and teaching it and whatever. But people aren't going to know that. So how are you going to know that? Well, we created auction directories, and we created those that you can do mechanically. You know, you could do it, look it up online by using a thumb drive. All right, but what we did to make it really advanced and easy for everyone that's watching right now is right below me when I finish, you can go and look at it. There's an interactive map and auction calendar. So what you can do, it's all online. You can just push your cursor around with your mouse, and you can go state to state, and you'll see white circles on the map. There's going to be an auction there, all right? Now, this map changes every single day. And what it's doing, it's telling the people, there's an auction here, here's how many properties, and you can look up the auction prices and all the rest of that. All right, so you can just go below me and find that information.
That's right below in the description, folks. So check it out. And Ted, thanks again for your answering all these questions.